Maurice says, PBO, am I at an advantage or disadvantage living in Silicon Valley? Meaning, when I get my degree, should I go where IT isn't so abundant? Ooh, that's a very good question.
No, no. I've been in Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. The only thing I ain't love about Silicon Valley is I like to eat fried food, and them dudes kept trying to give me sushi and the price of housing. Everything else, I loved it, man. I was eating and breathing out there. It was big money. I was working with a venture capital on some compliance work for HIPAA. Oh, I loved it out there. Like I said, the thing, it is different because I'm from the Midwest. I like to roll my sleeves up. Them dudes was showing up at 10 o'clock to work. I'm like, dude, I've been here since 8. I loved it out there. Like I said, the price of housing threw me off because I'm from the Midwest. Everything else, I was pretty cool. And I'm going to respond to the one guy you just talked to. I actually worked with a guy with an MIS degree in cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
He was struggling to get in. I identified him. I liked him. So I pulled him in. So I was the gatekeeper to get him in. So you got a network. Even with those credentials, when you try to get in cybersecurity, my team is old. I think I was the youngest person on our team was 48, and he was the CISO, and we were schooling him. So a lot of times you get old teams. So if you're trying to get in there and you 30, you got a network. So my job is to help you with the gatekeeper. So there's a guy, he's ex-military. So he works in client services. So I talked to the CISO. I was like, he needs to work with us one day a week on his school project so he can get some time. So too, that's what I want to help too as an OG is to pull them. But you got to network sometime because most cybersecurity teams aren't big unless you're working at Google. I worked, even when I was at DOD, I worked for the finance center. Our security team out there was only 10 people. I worked for a big state Department of Revenue. Our security team's only 7 people, 6 people.
Wow.
So security teams aren't big.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a good point. That is a very good point, and I'm glad that you actually said that, PBO. No matter what, right? You can get a computer science degree and graduate college and not get a job, right? Because you're not prepared. You're not networking. You're not, doing the right things to make sure your resume is up to speed. So me personally, I don't think it's necessary about the degree. It's about how you are able to bob and weave to get into certain positions. Traditionally, MIS students, they aren't taught the hard technical stuff. And when I was in school, one of the things I wanted to become was a software engineer. So I said, okay, well, in order for me to become a software engineer, I have to have a computer science minor. I have to do a little bit more coding in order for me to become in that role, because the majority of people who are software engineers come from a computer science background or a software engineering type background. So of course I complemented my MIS degree with a computer science minor, did some personal projects, and I became a software engineer. Yeah, initially when I got in, I probably wasn't up to speed as the computer science people, but once you get in, you're able to learn, right? Then you can showcase yourself, but you're able to learn and pick it up and so forth. And I became one of the best software engineers that exist out there. But that's a very good point that you actually brought up about the whole networking piece.
Let me jump in real quick. Real quick. Cybersecurity is at the top of the jobs too. So as you go up to the top, it's going to be less jobs and they're going to be hard to get. Because when I was a junior programmer, they burned those guys out, right? So they were hiring 60 or 70 of those. When we hire a cybersecurity analyst, it's one. We only hired one or 2 at the most. So those jobs are far and few between, and they're hard to get.
Yep. Very good point. Very good point. I'll even answer and add on to the Maurice one, man, about Silicon Valley. I say this, right? Anytime you're in a tech hub of the world like Silicon Valley, because I lived in Silicon Valley before we moved to Austin. I lived in San Jose in Willow Glen. It's a unique environment. As Professor Black Ops says, is there advantage or disadvantage? That's really personal. I think he is absolutely spot on with the cost of living. So your cost of living, although you could be an advantage from a standpoint of being around some super smart people and having a lot of opportunities to go to, different companies and work at Apple and Google and Facebook and some of the other ones, Tesla, right? That's an advantage from a job opportunity side. But the cost of living in that area, it puts you at a disadvantage if you're not making a lot of money, right? Or if you have to, live in a house with 4 other dudes because you only can afford, $1,000 of rent a month, right? So that's personally a personal thing right there that I would say that you really have to look in, and everybody's situation is going to be unique in that sort of situation. But I loved it in Silicon Valley. I absolutely loved it. I thought the weather was great. It's very expensive from a cost of living perspective, but you know that there's a lot of opportunities out there that exist. And the reason why I moved away was because of the cost. And, you know, obviously Austin, the place that I relocated to, is a tech hub and becoming another Silicon Valley of the South here in Texas. So let's go to a couple more questions before we continue the conversation here. Jabari says, I'm getting in my associates in cybersecurity. Is the demand more for 4-year degrees? Ooh, that's a very good question. Associates versus 4-year degree.
You want me to take it?
You take it.
It depends on what's your background. Because we got to remember, everything really has some cybersecurity plan you build on, right? So there's red team Gabe. He's usually hacking, tacking, right? Then you got purple team application guys. I've done that. I'm blue team, right? I'm stigging, I'm locking it down. So what does your skill set with an associate gives you, right? I've been a programmer for 20 years. So when I go purple team, I'm like, I understand what Java is. I understand what SQL injection, command injection is. I know what the settings are for Apache and IIS to lock that down from a purple team. So what are you adding to that associates that sets you apart, right? Because I don't have a CISP, but I get a lot of CISPs calling me because I'm out the digital mud. I've done this for real. I didn't read it in a book, right? So when you talk about locking down Apache, I've done that. You talking about Tomcat, I've done that. You talk about IIS, I've done that. MySQL, I've done that. Oracle, I've done that. I'm about this life. So you got to add to it to set yourself apart, right? You got to get in the mud, grind it, lab it, whatever you got to do. So what do you put together to set yourself apart with your associate?
Good point. Very, very, very good point. I agree with that too. And Ant26 is in the chat. He is always bringing his knowledge over here, man. And I appreciate you, brother Ant. Thank you so much for sharing the knowledge and answering the folks in the chat as well too. And going back to you, Dejon Spencer. So get the cert. I would say this. Yes, I said if you want to be on the technical side, right? If you really want to be on the technical side of the information security, then yes, you're going to want to get your cert there. Absolutely. I would say go ahead and get the cert for sure. Knowing this, if you want to be more on the management side of it, don't worry about getting that cert. You can easily get in without getting that cert. You know what I mean? So what else is in here? We had Dejon said, I'm finished my CS degree. Should I get my master's first or get a security plus to get into cybersecurity? So he is getting a computer information systems degree. And, you know, he's asking, should he get his master's first or get a security plus to get into cybersecurity? That's a good question.
What's his background? You more in the coaching though, but I would need to know what's your technical background, what's your job background?
Yeah.
If you just straight new and you ain't never really done it, I would actually go get a job, get a year, and get your master's at night. And hopefully, the company you work for would pay for your master's, right? Because after a while, even if you got masters, people want to know if you really done it. Because I work with people with PhDs, and I didn't think they could program their way out of a paper bag. So I mean, degrees help you, but you got to really be able to do it, right? Like I said, I work with people with PhDs, and he wrote some code. I'm like, dude, we about to spin through 1 billion records. Your app ain't gonna perform, man. This is not the little shop you worked at, man. This is not 1,000 records a night. We got 1 billion records, and we got 4 hours to do it. So you got to understand how to do that at a performance level, right? So you need to combine that with real world work, right?
I would say this too, PBO. And before I even jump to that, I gotta recognize the super chat. I appreciate it, Blind Guy, his wife from their life. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for always supporting the channel, guys. If you haven't subscribed to Blind Guy, his wife and their life, go ahead and jump over to the YouTube channel. Great YouTube channel, great couple that talks about a fantastic amount of information on how to start a YouTube channel, how to grow a business, and so forth. Absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate you guys coming through support. Here's the thing on that one too, right? So I get a lot of questions and a lot of mentees and clients that ask me, Antoine, should I go and get my master's degree? Should I go and get my master's degree to get into this field? And my answer always is no, right? And the reason why I say that is because of this, guys. Before you get a master's degree, you should understand exactly why you need that master's degree in order for you to in order for you to even pursue it, right? So typically what I ask questions about is, what do you have? What sort of work experience do you have? If you don't have any work experience, guys, it's no point to get a master's degree. Go and get some work experience. And then really, once you find out if you need a master's degree, then go ahead and pursue it. And let me give you an example, right? The only reason I went back and got my MBA, my master's degree, was because they were VPs in place that had their master's degree. In order for me to break into that sort of level of leadership into the company that I was working for at that point in time, I wanted to make sure I was on the same playing field with these guys. So I said, okay, well, in order for me to become a VP in this company, I went and got my master's degree. Now, if that's a reason for you to go and get your master's degree, there's a reason behind it. There's a path that you're going towards, and you're going to go and get it that way. And that's what I end up doing. I tell all of my clients that ask me if they're going to get a master's degree, focus on the experience first. You want to at least have 2, 3, 4 years of experience, and then determine what it is that you really want to do. You may want to get a master's degree in cybersecurity right away, but you may not want to be doing cybersecurity 2 years after that. Right? Then you just basically wasted $100,000, getting a cybersecurity degree, a master's at that, which is very expensive, and you're not even using it. Right? So get the work experience, understand where you want to go, your path, and then go and pursue a master's degree if it's in line for what you want to do from a career goal perspective and your accomplishment. So that's how I would answer that one, man. Ant26 left a wonderful super chat. I appreciate the support, Ant. Let me make sure I get you on here. Thank you so much. Ant says, can you brothers talk a little about the importance of knowing your audience specific to the space, being able to communicate effectively to your team, client, and leadership, how that can elevate your work? Wow, that was a good one, man. Oh, you take that one, PBO, because you're the professor, and I can add on to that. I'll let you take that one first, my man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's once you get to the level, especially you talking about VP, cybersecurity, anything is you have to be able to communicate. Because once you get at cybersecurity, the thing people don't realize is we can talk about Linux, we can talk about Oracle, we can talk about the only management wants to know is what risk is that to my organization, and how do you communicate that to risk and risk into dollar amounts? Like we talked about, okay, we got 3 million people, we pay $100, right? That could be $3 billion, right? So you have to effectively communicate. And remember, and I learned this at DoD the hard way, is what presentation you give to VPs aren't the same presentation you're going to get to middle management. Ain't the same presentation you're going to get developers. I was just starting out at DoD, this cool manager, and I did this killer presentation for the programmers. And I sliced it up a little bit, and I was going to give it middle management. A head middle manager walked in, he goes, "Hi, Tyrus, that's 70 slides. You're not about to show us 70 slides, are you?" I go, "No, I'm not about to show you 70 slides. We need to reschedule the meeting." Right, but you learn in time, and that's why I try to whisper to young brothers is you need to communicate to the right audience with the right specifics for the right time, right? Some people want to talk technology. Some people want to talk about risk. Some people want to talk about money, right? So as you talked about communication, and the reason project management exists is I worked with some of the best programmers on the planet when I was at DoD. Those dudes was on a spectrum. They were scared to talk to people. I made my job like Office Space. I'm going to take the requirements from the end users because those guys were scared of people, right? And most of those guys was foreign. So you got to communicate. Now, brilliant guys, but they were back there with their glasses on and scared to talk to people. People would look them in the eye. They would physically look down. But I would take care of those guys because they were brilliant, but they couldn't communicate. So if you can't communicate, even if you're brilliant, you're going to be at the top of what a programmer is going to make. That's not going to be top what their supervisor make or VP or CISO level, right? That's when you can need to communicate at the right level, right time, and the right purpose.
And let me add on to that as well, too, right? I think, and Aaron B said it right. It's the soft skills, right? Those are some of the things that's important. Thanks. This is another reason why I always say MIS as well, too. And the reason why MIS, because you get that opportunity to learn about the business side and understand what it is that people from the business in this higher level of leadership positions, what they want, what they think that matters. It's not typically the technical stuff, right? So you're gonna understand how to blend your communication from somebody at the C-suite all the way to somebody who is a developer, and they are not the same. they are not the same. And not only that, you're going to have to learn how to communicate, because you're going to have to take technical information and give it to people who aren't technical to make it make sense. Right? If you're sitting in the technical side and all you do is talk technical jargon, and you go to try to talk to somebody who's a vice president of business operations, they're not going to want to hear about, this flag and this web page is not working. No, they want to understand what it is. How is it contributing to his business operations not being accomplished, or how is it contributing to him not allowing his people to do a certain task, and what processes that it may be affecting and impacting and things like that. So soft skills is important. You get to learn as you go with the experience, especially as you continue to move up the chain. You may start off as a developer. You're going to understand how you communicate. You may become a team lead of that development group. You're going to have to start taking on a management role, because then you have to start communicating up, and you're going to have to start managing up as well too. And you're going to learn that what your developers want and what they need isn't the same as what your management need. Your management are typically going to be looking at results and numbers, and typically going up the upper level of management, they want the communication to be as shrunk down and simple as possible. They call it keep it super simple, KISS, right? The KISS method. Keep it keep it simple, stupid. That's what it is. Keep it simple, stupid. And that's how the communication typically is when you go up to the top, because these guys who are at that level, they understand it. They've been in these roles a lot of times before. And then when you say something, they already get it, right? So and then their attention span, not only that, the attention spans are very minimal, right? So they'll pick it up relatively fast. So just make sure you don't use a lot of words. You keep it communication at the bottom level for the guys at the top. And if you want to talk the technical jargon, you can typically use that with your development team.